Hey, good morning, Michiana. We are having some technical things. I was kind of watching the screen for a minute. So we are so glad that you're here to watch us for Life Inspired. We are streaming live on both Facebook and YouTube. And so if you know somebody that is not a Facebook follower and wants to watch our show on YouTube or go live to our inspiredhomes.com page, you can watch it from there. But Life Inspired is a program we do every week on Friday mornings, talking about someone's life. It was kind of going along and then ... and then God stepped in, kind of a Seinfeld yada 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 moment that turned them to a new direction, and now they're walking an inspired life. So our guest today is Brenda Stayton. We're so glad you could be with us today.
Thank you.
Yay. Can't wait to hear your story. I know a little bit of this, you guys, and so when you guys hear this story, you're just going to love it. It's just crazy. I do want to make sure we shout out to Daryl Buchanan, because Daryl gives us our little end music, We Have Jesus. Thanks, Daryl. And you can get that onto YouTube's or on darylbuchanan.net if you want to download that song as well. And then, so yeah, let's just jump right in. So if there's, I know we talked the other day and there's several turning points, so if you want to talk about a few of them, that's fine. But what's life going along before and then God stepped into your life, Brenda?
So life was very confusing, just as far as who God was and where he fit into my life. I grew up in a home where there was a presence of God. They had a general sense of like there was a God, but they didn't know who God was, what his power and grace was. They did not know, that they could have a relationship with him. It was just a very authoritative presence, but the devil was also an authoritative presence, and they kind of butt head to head. So growing up as a child in my biological home, I viewed God as just kind of like this even match between him and the devil. So it was really hard, and scary, and kind of like a hopeless situation, even as a child. So
you didn't even know that he's all powerful.
I did not. No, I did not.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later on that actually the night that I was saved, that I realized God is all powerful and he will never overcome the devil, and that he controls all.
Right. So. Yeah, I think you said he will never overcome the devil. He will always overcome the devil.
Yes, he will always overcome the devil. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yep. So I kind of think I want you to let him know what you were adopted from and saved from. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so my childhood, I grew up in a home where, with a single mother who had a lot of mental challenges. I believe was brought on by drugs and alcohol, because she had a pretty successful life going beforehand. But she just got caught up in the wrong scene and then ended up getting pregnant with me. And then her life just kind of spiraled out of control. She lost her husband, she lost her job, she lost her family. So she ended up moving back in with her mother in downtown Grand Rapids. And, just kind of like the mix of like the projects area. I grew up with like a mobile police station on the end of our lot. And like from a young age, all little kids are taught how to like roll cigarettes and stuff like that. So like braiding hair and rolling cigarettes is like, just a thing that we did. So, I knew that there was something different about, this like me and my family situation, but I didn't know like what that was. And later on, I came to realize that God really had a hand, even in my early childhood, preserving my mind from all of just the things that were happening. There was lots of abuse going on, whether that was, physical abuse, whether that was emotional abuse. Emotional abuse was a huge factor in my life. Not so much like sexual abuse or anything like that, but just like the real emotional abuse. And so God really preserved my mind and protected me from that, even though, things were hard. He put specific people in my life to, share the gospel with me. Yeah. There was one person who would go up to my mom and he would ask and say, hey, can I talk to your daughter? And, my mom didn't really have a very strong hand in my life. So she just kind of like let anything happen. And so he would take me into my room and he would try to explain as best as he could the gospel to me. And, he did this on multiple different occasions. Unfortunately, my mind wasn't ready to hear that yet, but still it planted a seed in my life. Sure. And he wasn't the only one. I also had a neighbor that brought us to Vacation Bible School for a summer. And there was just lots of little steps on the way. I was about 5 during this time, and this was before I'd gone into foster care. At age 6, things just kind of started changing. There was, the foster care system had kind of taken notice about the things that were happening in our home.
Like CPS starts to watch you.
Yes, CPS was a big factor in the school that I was in. They actually had their own room, which was just a really scary room for us because yes. So we actually had a room where it was just kind of like almost like a ghost story sort of a thing in our school because kids would go in there and they would never come back. So yeah, it was really interesting. So there was one day where my then cousin and I were called down to that room and like everybody was just silent. Because we never knew, we didn't know what was going to happen. So there were 4 police officers in there, and then they just talked with us and asked us lots of questions about things that were happening in our home, just things that we'd noticed, and then based on their observation of us and our answers, they would decide whether or not CPS needed to take us out. So we were actually able to go back to our classrooms. But I would say maybe a week or 2 later, CPS actually came and took us from school with just the clothes on our backs, our backpacks, and the school books in them. So we were not allowed to go back to our homes.
Wow.
We had to get all new clothes, all new everything. So I'm riding in the back of this police car. And I don't know where my brother is because I had a little brother.
6 years old.
I'm 6 years old. And my instinct is like, okay, where's my brother? Like, I don't know what's going on right now, but I need to know where my brother is. So, because up until that time, I was also his kind of mom in a sense.
Right.
Because my mother and all of her, she was very mentally unstable. So she would leave an infant with a 6-year-old for long periods of time. So my brother was very unhealthy, malnourished because, children are not supposed to take care of children.
Right.
So we were both put into the foster care system.
But at least you were together.
We were
It's
together.
so amazing that you were together.
Yes. So it was really helpful that we were together, just kind of brought that sense of unity. And I would not have made it if I didn't have all of them present.
Right.
So,
especially in your first foster system home where it was also more abuse.
Yes,
you said.
it was also more abuse. So we went into our first foster home, and that woman, she was very authoritative,
So
and not
from your mom.
gracious at all. So opposite from my mom. And she was not gracious at all. Like the first night we were there, she said, okay, you guys can play with these toys, but if you don't play with these toys, if you don't put them away, then you're not going to play with them again. And so we were there for like 6 to 8 months, and we didn't put our toys away because we'd never been taught how to do those things, and so we didn't. And she wouldn't allow us to play with them for like the remainder of the time. And I remember she would lock herself in the room with my brother, and she'd get really frustrated and kind of physical with him because he wasn't potty trained and he was constantly wetting himself and stuff like that. So
and he would have been like 2, right?
He was like 2, yeah. So that was really hard, just not being able to do anything about that and watching somebody go through those sorts of things. Eventually CPS did realize what was going on, and then she got her license revoked. And then they also decided to split up my sister and I. I call her my sister now.
She was your cousin.
She was
at
my
that time.
cousin. Yes, she was my cousin. But we'd grown up together. We're 3 weeks apart. So yeah, it's really neat. And so we'd grown up together. So for us, we were basically sisters. It was just kind of like a title thing. So I went into another foster home, and Trosty went into a different one. the foster home that I went into was my forever home. So I and alongside my brother were adopted that same year. And about a year later, my sister, my cousin, I was able to meet her for a year later. And then, reconnect with her and, just see her family. And then my parents saw the bond that we had, and they're like, we have to adopt her too. But there was a moment where she could have gone back to her biological family. So we were kind of praying that, that didn't happen. But because then who knows what would have happened. But God, it was in God's plan to have her adopted into our family as well. And it was really neat too, because in school, they actually threw us a party. So yeah, our entire class bought us like these necklaces that said like sisters and forever on them. So it was really neat just, see like even our school was just like coming alongside us, and
that's great.
Yeah, just kind of welcoming us into this family.
Very
so
cool.
It was really neat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you're living with your current parents, and then you eventually get adopted, and then eventually your cousin gets adopted, becomes your sister. They adopted how many? Hey, TJ, can we put up the picture of the 7 children? They are laying on the ground. So yeah, nope, that one. Yep, that one. So he's going to put up this picture for you guys. And this is Brenda's family. So tell us around the circle. So like, start with you. Where are you? You're in the top, right?
I am, yes. So it's kind of hard to see my face because I had a lot of hair back then. My family kind of teases me about this picture all the time. So I am the one in the lighter blue shirt.
And the kind of the top right.
Yeah, top right. Right next to the girl wearing the black scarf.
And the black scarf is your sister named?
Hannah.
That's
Hannah and Abby are twins.
Okay, and which one's Abby?
Abby is the one directly across from her.
Okay, in the turquoise shirt.
Yes, in the turquoise shirt. So Hannah and Abby are twins. My dad works in Christian administration, just wherever God leads us. Just making, like Christian schools, better through, academics and leadership and stuff like that. And he was working as a principal in a school and noticed this family struggling. And he had actually just adopted another child, Silas.
Okay, so show me the picture again. Which one's Silas?
Silas is the one right next to me over on the other side, the one with his hands crossed.
Okay, in the purple shirt?
Yes, in the purple shirt.
Okay, back to us. Sorry, thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
So he had just adopted Silas.
He had just adopted Silas. So at that time, they had 2 children. Okay. They had just built a house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that was about 1,500 square feet. And then they ended up taking in 3 more children, Hannah and Abby, and then their younger sister, Esther.
So they had Silas, Hannah, Abby, and Esther.
And Dean. Dean was their first adoption that they did. He was an infant adoption, and then they had Silas. So they built this house thinking that they're only going to have 2 children. Then they end up taking in 5 more. And then later on, about 4 months later, they ended up taking in 2 more children. So now they have, all of these kids, and it's great. But, with that comes a lot of difficulties and stuff because all of these kids are from broken homes. And amazingly, we were just able to really rally around each other. It was just kind of almost like a natural thing at first. We had our bumps in the roads, like all kids do, but it wasn't like major like disagreements and stuff like that. It was just kind of like, different styles of life. But we were just able to come together and really blend well as a family right off the bat. So eventually when Esther left to go back to her family, that's when Trossie came in. So that was just kind of like, I guess, God's final plan for our family. Hannah and Abby aren't actually adopted, but we consider them a part of our family just because they chose to stay with us because of their family situation. So legally, my parents only have 5 children.
Got it.
But we consider
Hannah and Abby
siblings
as well.
Yes.
Okay. So now I do want to hear about the time, I think you were like 10 or something like that, and you couldn't sleep at night.
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Okay. So when I was 10, I was up late at night, and I had heard my mother's salvation story and how one night, she was just really working through some stuff. and about, God and just like how he fit into her life. And, she had gone up and talked to her mom and was saved that night. This was when she was a child. And so I had a moment where, I was just really remembering all of the things that had happened in my biological home, and, all the things that were said about God. And at that time, I had been with my adoptive family, for about 3 years. So I had just really heard the gospel over and over and over again. And just kind of had this overwhelming sense of, God is real, and he actually wants to have a relationship with me, and he wants to be a part of my life. And it was just kind of this overwhelming, comforting feeling. And I just like, right then and there, I knew that like God would never, he was so much stronger than the devil. He was so much stronger than, even, I guess, my current situation. So I got up, and my parents happened to be watching television or something like that. Yeah, they were still awake. So I was like, hey, can we talk? And, I'm not really that much of a talker. So they're like, yeah, definitely. And so she was like, what's up? So, I just kind of was sharing what was on my heart, and she was like, this is the moment, this is really the moment. So she shared the gospel with me in a really gentle and tender way, and I received Jesus that night.
What does that mean? Received Jesus?
So I understood, that was the time where I really understood who God was, and that I understood who God was, and just how loving he was. And I didn't completely understand just how all of the things that he'd done in my life yet, but that would come later.
Right.
But I really just understood, and I could just stand up and say, yes, God is real. God wants a relationship with me. And that was just kind of like my foundation.
Yeah.
And then later on, I would, kind of have these moments of remembering God and his hand all in my life, and how he preserved my mind, and, just really protected me from everything.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So I do want to throw in this little thing about snowflakes that I heard once, because when you sent me your little preview story, you talked about sometimes you're still questioning, why would God let me grow up in that first situation or whatever. And I had read somewhere that a snowflake is, obviously no two snowflakes are alike and all of that stuff. And the reason they are the way they are is because when the crystal starts to fall from the cloud, it goes through a certain path, and different dust particles attach to it.
Really?
And recrystallize, then the crystals connect this dust particle to this dust particle. So that's how they're formed. They're formed as they fall.
Really?
So that's why they're all different, because as they go through, like this one's going through the air in this place, and this one's going through the air in this place, and different dust particles are attaching to them at different. So I just someone said that that's a picture of what human beings are like. And we're just as different as snowflakes. We start out as, little crystals or whatever, but the path that we fall through and the different dust particles that collect to us make us these beautiful snowflakes that are so different from each other. And I just love that picture. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, because that's why you went through what you went through, because it made your crystals so beautiful. It was part of, just part of your shaping and part of your beauty. And I don't know. But we always want to ask and share, because this is what Life Inspired is all about, is, just as different as your snowflake is from everybody else's, there are some that look a little bit more like others. So there's possibly people that might share this with someone who had a childhood like yours. And so, what is it that you do today to stay connected to what inspires you? How do you stay connected to God? You understand that he has a part to play in your life, and that he loves you and he wants a relationship with you, but how do you keep with that? How do you stay connected to that so that you can get through days, because there's good days and bad days? And
I think just remembering the promises of God, the things that he has promised to me. He showed me very early on. I found it really important to talk about my story, and the more that I talked about it, the more I was able to find people who had similar situations. And so I view trials as a way of God showing me that maybe I can help somebody else one day with something like that. So when I had this opportunity, I was just like, yes, like I never know, you know, how God can use this and who it could reach, and if this can be encouraging to somebody else. But I just remember all of the times where I have shared a part of my story with somebody who was going through something really difficult. And, you know, just that bond that, you know, we were able to have, and just, you know, kind of like this, I don't know, moment where, you know, we just both realized like this is part of God's plan. And it was just kind of like this, I don't know, warming, comforting feeling in the midst of such hardship.
Right.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So everybody that's watching, if you want to message us here, if you need to go to inspiredhomes.com and message us, we would love to have you talk to Brenda some more. She would totally meet you for coffee or lunch
Definitely.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you know, find out more, dig more, just message us, whatever, and we'll get you in touch with Brenda.
Definitely.
And then if you know somebody else that needs to tell their story on the Red Couch, we'd love to have those messages too. So, hey, thanks again to Daryl Buchanan for We Have Jesus, and we do have Jesus. Thank you, God, for that. So y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Yes, yes, we have Jesus. From a spirit in heaven, we have Jesus. We want to shelter you with God tonight. Take away the darkness, give you all the skylight.